The death of everything. We'll talk about why everything seems like it's dying. We're going to talk about the 19th Amendment. We're going to have a blast on so many things tonight on I'm Right. The death of everything. I talk about this a lot, but stay with me here. Just walk with me through this. Does it feel like things around you, everything around you, is getting a little bit worse? Big things and little things. Does it feel like that? Does it feel like there are more incidents with, trains than we've ever had before? More plants being lit on fire. But okay, those are the big things. Let's set that aside. Does it feel like customer service has gone downhill? Waiters, waitresses. Does it feel like the quality of the goods and services you've purchased, does it feel like that's gone downhill? And I could cite for you education statistics right now on kids graduating from high school or college, and I could cite for you the declining rapidly reading levels in math, but I don't really have to do that for you. Have you interacted with somebody who has graduated high school recently? Does that strike you as somebody who is as ready and prepared for life as you were when you graduated high school? You feel it, don't you? I know you do, because everyone I talk to does, and I do. It feels like everything around you is dying, decaying a little bit. But why is that? Why does it feel like everything's dying? Because it is. Well, I'm going to explain why. Let's do a little story, all right? A fake story, but it's a story. Me. Talk about me for a moment. I'm starting a home building company, Jesse's construction company. But when I go out there and I look for the guy who's going to do the drywall, the guy who's going to pour the concrete, when I go look for the superintendent who's going to run the jobs, when I go find the office administrator, she's got to handle all the paperwork, accounts payable, accounts receivable. When I'm staffing up Jesse's construction company, Jesse's Home Builders, you know what I'm looking for? Am I looking for that guy who's been pounding nails for 10 years? He knows what he's doing? Am I looking for the superintendent? He's been doing this 20 years. He knows the ins and outs. Am I looking for the secretary who can type 10,000 words a minute and knows Excel? No. You see, at Jesse's Home Builder, we focus on redheads. We only want to hire redheads. You see, historically, redheads have been underrepresented in the home building industry. And so when I field resumes and when I go through the interview process, I don't want to hear about your experience. Bring me the gingers. I only want workers who will burn in the sun. Here at Jesse's Ginger Home Builders, we are going to hire redheads here. Now, let me ask you something. I know it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but over time, how would things go at my company if that was the reason I hired somebody? If I placed a priority on something that didn't have anything to do with the mission of my company, how would it go? Not well. How long before there were incidents on the job site beyond sunburn? How long before I had major company problems because I continued to hire people who weren't good at their jobs, but I was focused on the color of their hair? How quick would the product of Jesse's Ginger Home Builders, how quickly would it decay? It'd be quick, wouldn't it? Now, that stupid story I just told you that's obviously fake, expand that out to an entire nation. Because that is currently the stated, oftentimes written down policy of virtually every major institution in the United States of America. Not just the U.S. government, but most definitely there. From the U.S. government, corporations on down, over and over and over and over again, you will hear about diversity. Look how diverse we are. We're super diverse, bragging about how diverse we are. Why do we have a press secretary? Remember, the press secretary, her job is to be the voice of the administration. It wouldn't matter if she had 8 eyes and was a human incarnate spider, if she could communicate properly, she would be qualified for the job. It is the only thing that matters. Doesn't matter if she's 8 feet tall, 2 feet tall, black, white, Asian, no matter what. Her job is to be the voice of the White House. That is her job. We call her affectionately here on the show Corinne Diversity Hire, because she got hired because she's a black lesbian. She can't speak in complete sentences. Credit to Corinne, though, she seems to know that, because when pressed at all about the disaster that is the Biden administration, look at what she brags about.
I want to take the opportunity to lay out how diverse the president's cabinet has been, how diverse the president's administration has been. The cabinet is majority people of color for the first time in history. The cabinet is majority female for the first time in history. A majority of White House senior staff identify as female. 40% of White House senior staff identify as part of the racially diverse communities. And a record 7 assistants to the president are openly LGBTQ+. So again, this is something that the president prides himself on. That he actually has taken action to show the diversity of this administration.
Jesse's Ginger Home Builders was a funny little tongue-in-cheek way to open the show, but it does get a little bit more sobering when you realize the entire United States government is run in exactly that way. When they're sitting people down for interviews with critically important positions in this government, positions that affect your life, my life, positions that may cost lives. They don't sit them down and say, okay, what job are you here for? What are your qualifications for the job? They look at a room full of people and they say, wow, no, get rid of Whitey. Hey, white guy's got to go. Hey, we've already got too many Asians. We got to dump him. There's a woman there. Do we have enough women yet? Oh, we're not at half staff for the women. Let's get rid of the men. They place a priority on what doesn't matter at all. And that's why everything's dying. I had a pilot write to me, email to me. I have a bunch of pilots who email in ever since I went off about the vaccine mandates. We've developed a pilot viewership here for the show, and I'm writing. I had a pilot email into me and warn me about air travel in this country. You see airline after airline after airline. You can go see all their advertisers now. We need more women. We're hiring more black people. We're getting more and more diverse in the cockpit, openly bragging about stashing people in the cockpit with 300 lives at their fingertips, and their qualification is the color of their skin or their gender. And oh, by the way, it's not just pilots, it's the air traffic controllers. And, well, you know what? Here's a better example. I want you to sit back and breathe this in. It's going to be difficult to watch. I'm just warning you right now. I want you to breathe this in. The FAA, kind of a big deal. The big cheese nominated to run the FAA. Here's a minute or two worth of the person who's going to be running things.
So, Mr. Washington, can you quickly tell me what airspace requires an ADS-B transponder?
Not sure I can answer that question right now.
So what are the 6 types of special use airspace that protect this national security that appear on FAA charts?
Sorry, Senator, I cannot answer that question.
Okay, so what are the operational limitations of a pilot flying under basic med?
Senator, I'm not a pilot, so...
So can you tell me what causes an aircraft to spin or to stall?
Again, Senator, I'm not a pilot.
The death of everything. And I want to be clear, because I could go through the reason the Rear Admiral Buttigieg was hired. I could go through all the Biden administration, but I want to make sure that I'm clear about this. Yes, it's pervasive throughout the U.S. government, from the FAA to the military. This is going on everywhere. But this has infected the entire nation. As Harvard crowds out the qualified in order to get in more unqualified so they can be more diverse. Columbia University already announced they're ditching the ACT and SAT. Why? Because they're bad tests? No, because black people weren't doing well enough on them, so they dumped it. This is going on in corporate America. I already brought up the airline industry, but it's so much worse than that. Point after point after point. Cultural institution after cultural institution after cultural institution. They have all renewed their focus, so they now focus on what doesn't matter, and they sacrifice what does matter. And that's why now you regularly run into utter morons in critical positions of power because they were hired for reasons other than their qualifications. And now you know why I call it the death of everything. Because it will slowly but surely kill our entire nation. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I am most definitely right. Now, speaking of Jesse's Ginger Construction Company, we got a Ginger on next. Maybe we'll ask her about that. Maybe she's sunburned. I don't know. We'll talk about the 19th Amendment with Josie and some other things. Before we get to that, let's get to this. Let's get to a factory seconds sale. Now, what is that? Well, you already know about Grip 6, the greatest wallets ever. You already know. You can get them. There are several different designs, by the way. American flag one is my preferred. You can get them with or without the loop. I have both. I think I prefer the loop, but I don't know. The other one's a little slicker. They have the best socks. They have the best belts. That's what you get at Grip 6. Well, they have factory seconds right now, and that means there's a limited supply, but now through March 15th, they're 40% off factory seconds. If you've been wanting a wallet, a belt, socks, whatever, now 40% off. Go scrounge them up before they're gone. Grip6.com/Jesse, all right? Grip6.com/Jesse. Save some money, especially in this economy. We'll be back to talk about the 19th Amendment next.
A movement to repeal the 19th Amendment for women to have the right to vote. What do I think of that? I think I hear something like that every day around here.
I knew she was a big fan of the show. Joining me now, my friend Josie Glabach. You see her all the time on Timcast. She's known as the Redheaded Libertarian on there. Josie, what is this 19th Amendment Nancy's talking about?
Hi, Jesse. So the 19th Amendment is the right of the citizens of the United States to vote, and it shall not be infringed based on their sex.
What are your thoughts on it?
I think that we should abolish it. I think it was a mistake. And I could write an entire Harlequin romance on all the reasons it was a mistake, but I've narrowed it down to about 3 to 5 really good reasons on why it was a mistake. So, I mean, to start, in addition to women's suffrage, the size and the scope of the government has grown substantially, more than any other period in history since adding the 19th Amendment. The 19th Amendment itself expands the federal government because it infringes on the 10th Amendment, which is the states' rights to decide how to run their own elections. In the original Constitution, the founders don't even talk about voting because that's a state's issue. It's not a federal issue. So it's a 9th and a 10th Amendment issue. And then finally, I mean, third, women are emotional. Like, we're train wrecks. Like, why would you want to fight anything? Women are supposed to be emotional train wrecks too. We're meant to bring balance to relationships with our nurturing and our intuition. And the founders kind of saw it as one family, one vote. So they just decided, the men, they can think logically, broadly about abstract ideas and deduce a suitable conclusion where women might not be able to. And, we can look and see evidence of this looking at, say, the 2016 election. They did an exit poll, and if only women voted, there would have been 458 electoral votes for Hillary Clinton. That is insane. This shows that we cannot be trusted. So.
Okay, Josie, let me ask you about that in all seriousness, because I've seen these exit polls, and I know what the numbers are. It's about 60% of women vote Democrat, about 60% of men vote Republican. If it were, look, in all honesty, if it was only men voting, this country would be blood red, just a sea of red, and if it was only women voting, we would be a full-blown communist nation. But why? Why is that the case? I'm not a woman, you are. Why do they walk into the polls? I know this doesn't apply to you, and they hammer that Democrat vote the majority of the time. Explain it to me.
Women are more easily manipulated than men. So Democrats employ an appeal to emotion and mob mentality. And it sways the vote in their favor, and they know that. But Democrats, they actually loathe women. They hate women, which is why they keep putting men in our spaces and men in the spaces of young girls, because they actually don't actually like women. But they do really like to hold our identity hostage for when they want an abortion vote or when they want an equal pay. If you believe in the equal pay myth, then you get to be a woman. See, so they like to do things like that. Even though they hate women, they like to use our identity against us, and we're easily manipulated. So why not? Why not do that?
One more thing. The second gentleman was on TV recently. This is what he had to say.
There's too much of toxicity. It's masculine toxicity out there. And we've kind of confused what it means to be a man, what it means to be masculine.
Is there too much toxic masculinity in this country?
This is the iron law of woke projection. Toxic masculinity is simply the absence of masculinity, just like toxic femininity is the absence of classic femininity. The most toxic men that I know are feminists. They are male feminists, and they have faked their way into the hierarchy of males by appealing to women. And it's dangerous and it's toxic. And the only way to cure toxic masculinity is with traditional masculinity, with protection and providing that traditional men give the women in their life.
Josie, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Speaking of men, and this will apply to some women too, but this is mainly a man problem. PTSD is something that men struggle with mightily when they get back from combat. And it's hard to explain, but it is difficult trying to take yourself out of that environment with that priority on your life and moving back into just a normal world. It is difficult to put down the bombs and bullets and everything else and all the misery over there and then just be dad again or an employee again or a son again. It's hard. I love Boulder Crest because they've chosen to tackle this mission and bring these guys back into the world. Go to bouldercrest.org, and I want you to look them up first. Look up their mission. Look up Operation Struggle. Look how they're coming alongside these guys, and they're not handing them a bottle of pills. They're bringing them back into the world. And help if you can. They need your donations. That's how they do it. They need your volunteer hours. bouldercrest.org, all right? We'll be back. We're going to keep talking about the elder abusers in this country. With Joe Biden, you see, everyone could see Joe Biden was not doing okay mentally, and everyone knew that Jill Biden was clearly a main driving force behind this at best. At worst, well, I'm not even going to go into it, worst. Jill Biden is behind this, a lot of it. At least she hasn't put a stop to it at all. And so that was an odd case. It's an odd case what we're seeing. The president embarrasses himself every day. And then there's Jill Biden. Then Giselle Fetterman. She's covering for her brain-damaged husband. And now it seems like it's a trend. But I want to go back to the Jill Biden, Joe Biden thing for a moment. But before we do that, let's do this really quickly. Let's talk about dogs. We love them. I love mine. I love Fred. I've been very open about Fred's digestive issues that he used to have before we started giving him rough greens. But I want to explain something quickly. Why did your parents make you eat your vegetables when you were a kid? Just for funsies? No, they had you do that because there were vitamins. There were things in there that you needed that you weren't getting. Your dog needs nutrition that he possibly has never had in his life because dog food is dead food. Rough greens is that nutrition. A hyperactive dog or a too lethargic dog, coat's getting dull, digestive issues, whatever the case may be, your dog might have vitamin and mineral deficiencies and probably does. Get some Rough Greens and pour it on your dog's food. It's not dog food, it's a supplement. It's all natural. Pour it on the food. Free Jumpstart trial bag. Go to roughgreens.com/Jesse, all right? roughgreens.com/Jesse. Now, this was an interesting little tidbit from Joe.
And I had these terrible headaches, was diagnosed with having anyway, they had to take the top of my head off a couple times, see if I had a brain.
What? And that's interesting when you see this little interview with Jill Biden, which I still don't understand why the First Lady continues to give interviews as if she's in charge of anything, but Jill Biden sat down and talked about this.
Nikki Haley, one of the Republican candidates, is calling for mental competency tests for those politicians over the age of 75. What do you think about that?
Ridiculous.
Would your husband ever take one of those?
I mean, we haven't even discussed, we would never even discuss something like that.
So, Joe Biden's wife watches him routinely embarrass himself in front of the entire planet, and she doesn't think a mental competency test is even worth a discussion. And these women are horrible, huh? All right, we'll do it tomorrow.